Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So, we are back, and today we're talking about the North. I want to say the Tonga election. Why am I saying North? I was thinking North Korea, but yeah, we're talking about the Tonga election. As you can see, I have AI on this screen, mainly because there's absolutely nothing on Wikipedia. You cannot rely on Wikipedia for these small island elections, as the results have long time been called, because Wikipedia goes by an independent metric system, which I would say, an partisan metric system. Tonga, in fact, has independence. They aren't really interested in this. I mean, look at this. I mean, yeah, sure, we're not going to wait until they get all this, and that would be next month. Come on. But the good news is we got results. AI has sorted it out for us, and it seems to me to be more accurate, and most importantly, it's what we expected in this whole entire ordeal. This is what breaks in the news. Prime Minister Iki has retained his seat. He is going to remain your prime minister, very likely, if you are from the Tonga, the small island country in the Pacific there. So Prime Minister Ike has retained his seat, who took office in January 2025, retained his seat with the largest margin of any candidate nationwide. So he's that popular. It's very likely he is going to remain your prime minister. I mean, if he has seized the absolute majority of the vote with that big of a margin, then it's obvious, it's pretty much certain that he is going to be the prime minister for another span, I don't know, until determined, okay? But yes, it says here in the background, yes, general elections were held in Tonga on the 20th of November 2025. Isiki Inke became prime minister in January 2025, just this year. He succeeded Suyoshi Sowani, who served from 2021 until his resignation in December of 2024, shortly before a planned no-confidence motion, which Ike introduced. In August of 2025, Parliament passed a bill to replace the foreign ministry with an entity named His Majesty's Diplomatic Services, which would be under the monarch's authority. Royalists supported the bill, while pro-democracy advocates criticized it. So I'm already seeing a left versus right, the old traditional classic left versus right spectrum in Tonga, and I think that's kind of how it goes. The right represents the royalists. Of course, they're still all independents, right? But each independent has his own views, and those views are determined by loyalists. You're either a loyalist or a Democrat, in other words, or pro-democracy. So, obviously, there was a Parliament bill. And I don't know what position Iseke Ike is, but going over the results, you also have 6 new members, 6 newcomers. 1 former representative were elected as people's representatives, including the sole female candidate, Fan Fatou Fatafi. 2 new members joined the 9-seat noble contingent. And the voter turnout was lower, actually. The election saw a low voter turnout of under 50%, a decrease from 62% in the 2021 election. This was largely attributed to the lack of provisions for overseas voting, meaning Tongans living abroad for work or other reasons were unable to cast their ballot. So apparently they have an abroad delegation. I think every country does, but it depends, because some countries like Chile, Bolivia, even Russia will add the abroad voting into. They'll give some delegates for the abroad voting, or they'll legitimately take the abroad voting and add it into the election results. We don't do that in the United States. Our territories Puerto Rico, American Samoa, and the like, yeah, they vote in our presidential election, but they don't affect the outcome. They are not counted in the electoral college, so they're very irrelevant. So then again, but they do make up turnout. It counts as turnout, and the votes, the popular vote, they count those territories. So obviously, you have the voter turnout. Next steps, the newly elected members of the Legislative Assembly will now vote among themselves by secret ballot to select the next prime minister. Several candidates, including the current prime minister, Ike, the former prime minister, Soasi Sovalini, and the Speaker of the House, Lord Fakafona, are expected to vie for the position. All right? So it's not over yet. But I'm just saying, knowing how this stuff works, now I'm not Tongan, obviously, and we might have some Tongans coming in and criticizing, no, you don't know how this works. There's always someone, and I mean someone, from that country I'm doing a video on. They're like, yo, you're not from this country. You know nothing about this country. Of course I don't. I'm not from that country. I'm learning. I'm observing, and I'm trying to understand. That's why we do this series. Okay, I'm not an expert, but knowing from what I already know from how these sort of things go, because if you have an outstanding margin victory by popular vote in your own district, the likelihood that you're mostly cool with not just good with your constituents as they re-elected you in a large margin as suggested, but you're also cool with your colleagues in the House of Representatives. So my guess is that Ike is in a good position, in that he has good popularity within his own district. Now, is he popular Tonga abroad? Likely so than unlikely. Now, obviously, he's going to be more popular in his district compared to other districts in Tonga, but because he's from the district, he's the favorite son, right? But yes, I'm just looking at the old article. But yes, he was elected in late December 2024 by the Parliament, or House of Representatives, whatever they call it there. Or the People's Representatives, the Legislative Assembly. This is their official election. And it's looking like that the Prime Minister's keeping his job. No political parties, then again. This isn't a win for this party, a win for that party. But then again, you have a split of ideological opinions. I would like to know what Mr. Ike's positions are. But before we do that, let's see the background. The election followed a period of political tension, including the resignation of the previous prime minister, of course, we know that, and a constitutional crisis involving the king's authority over certain ministerial portfolios. So they have a king, okay? Their king is not King Charles. They have their own independent king. And that's why I think it's called the Kingdom of the Tonga. I think that's the official name, if I'm not mistaken. A major campaign issue was a controversial bill passed in August of 2025 that transfers we talked about that, between basically the bill that is divisive between royalists and Democrats. So really, I would like to know what is the Prime Minister's political position. Because despite being an independent, you still have a political position. Now, I've noticed that a lot of these oceanic politicians and leaders, they tend to have more centrist views. So I'll have to ask Google, is Ike a pro-democracy, a royalist, or pro-democracy? Okay, Ike is generally considered to be a royalist. Okay. So while he has previously shown political independence, he is currently seen as aligning with the Tongan monarchy. Keep in mind, this might not be true. This is AI for you. Royalist sympathies, political analysts, and democracy advocates describe him as a royalist at heart, who favors working with the king and the hereditary nobles. He has been described as a yes man, who does not publicly challenge the king. Relationship with the monarchy, Ike replaced the previous prime minister who resigned amid a power struggle with the royal family. After Ike was elected, the king took control of the foreign affairs ministry, a move seen as some critics as a step backwards for democracy. Ike's cabinet includes the crown prince as the unelected minister for defense and foreign affairs, a key sign of alignment with the monarchy. Now, about independence, earlier in his career, he stood as an independent, and they all are, and voted against motions that would increase allowances for members of parliament on sick leave overseas, demonstrating some degree of independent judgment and fiscal prudence. Tonga is a constitutional monarchy with a mix of democratic elements, popularly elected representatives, and aristocratic elements like the heredity and the nobles, right? Political dynamics are often involve a tension between pro-democracy advocates and those who support the king, right? So you have maybe, it's like French Revolution, the lower classes or something like that, or the society, Tongan society versus the hierarchy, the monarchy. And although, unlike the France, it looks like Tonga allows their people some power, like to elect who gets to be in their parliament. I mean, hey, we know absolute monarchies have died, and we know why they have died. They've become very unpopular. The leftists would just overthrow them. Tonga is continuing to, of course, it's one of those traditional constitutional monarchies. You have your traditional royalists and your traditional democratic aligned individuals. So what do you guys think in regards to this video? Nothing much to talk about other than we have the results. Prime Minister easily won. You got 6 new members. Turnout is lower because of the lack of provisions for overseas voting. And now, basically, this election goes to the Legislative Assembly. They're going to vote on the new Prime Minister, who is, I'm just going to say, it's going to be Ike. It's just a big, big, big bet. Not that much of a big bet. I'm judging from the results. But anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this video? Let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.